There's a body. Our friend wasn't answering his phone. We just did a wellness check. We just came here, and he appears dead.
Okay.
There's blood. He's laying next to his bed, off of his bed, and there's blood. I can't get closer to see more than that.
Okay, so you can tell he's obviously not breathing or anything?
Yeah.
Is it like kind of like puddle, like, you know, does he look like...
It doesn't look puddled. I can't look.
Okay, all right, I understand. Okay.
My heavens. In our spotlight this morning, we're sharing the new autopsy results that show just how many times Dr. Spencer and his wife Monique Tepe were shot, allegedly by her ex-husband. And here's some new video of the suspect. This is 39-year-old vascular surgeon, Dr. Michael McKee. Now, he's defendant Michael McKee. He was taken into custody for some questioning. You see him walking casually through the police station moments ago, and when he was walking there, he was not restrained. Well, now there's some new documents revealing his ex-wife, Monique, was shot 9 times, including once in her face, 3 times in her chest. She also had an injury on her leg. Her husband, Dr. Spencer Tepe, was shot 7 times, including once to his head. Their children and their dog were left unharmed, and police have said that they found weapons in McKee's home.
We can also say that multiple weapons were taken from the property of McKee, and there's a preliminary link from our NIBIN to one of the weapons that ties it to the homicides.
Police say that a silencer was used, and they only found 3 spent rounds at the crime scene. You might remember us reporting this. So if they only found 3 spent casings, did the shooter clean up or take the time to reload in the process of firing all those shots? Let's talk about it. Let's bring back in Noah Pines and Detective Tom Smith. Noah, the number of shots is chilling. What did you think when you heard that?
You know, as a former prosecutor and someone who handled these cases, I've actually had cases where people have reloaded and kept shooting. You know, it's anger. It is not just, I'm going to kill this person. It's something deep inside that wants you to keep shooting and shooting and shooting. I've had a case where somebody shot him, emptied it, stepped over him, reloaded, and just emptied a whole nother clip into him, and it was just anger. Anger.
Oh, it's so disturbing.
And personal.
Right. This we knew from the outset this was very personal. Detective Smith, I remember you using that word on this show when they were looking for the suspect and we didn't know who was going to be brought in. And tell me, now that you know more about the number of shots, what do you think about those casings? 3 left behind. Is it obvious? Did somebody clean up?
Well, first of all, Noah's exactly right. This was rage. This was a message that he wanted to send to them of his anger that he had with both of them. But as far as the crime scene goes, I think he probably, you know, cleaned up as best he could. And maybe those 3 rounds were in a location he couldn't get to, maybe under a body or under the bed that he didn't want to, you know, spend any more time at the location to gather. But again, it just shows the cold-heartedness and just monster-like attitude and thought that he perpetrated on them in the amount of rounds and where the rounds were fired. You know, anywhere near the face or head is a clear message that he wanted to send.
Ooh, it's chilling, Detective. We don't know the exact weapon that law enforcement have sent to the crime lab. We know they said 1 is linked, but they haven't been specific about it. We just know those spent rounds are 9mm rounds. Tom, do you think that this was a situation of reloading?
It's hard to say. It depends on, you know, maybe the evidence collection that they had in the house. How many magazines were actually found at the location? They didn't get into that. All they spoke about were the weapons. You know, so that's going to be interesting to see if he did reload. And no one knows this as the prosecution. That's going to be a part of it, but not a, you know, real important prosecutional part, I think, when it comes to it. You know, he did what he did with the amount of rounds that he did. If they find different magazines, that may lead to, you know, just another part of his rage when it comes to this.
Right, right. Noah, back to the prosecution with something like this. Hopefully a very seasoned domestic violence prosecutor will be on it. Will you speak to that, please? The importance of having a lawyer who understands that post-separation abuse can happen years later to somebody who was in a cycle of violence with an intimate partner.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're presenting a case to a jury where the defendant's a doctor, right? He's saves lives. He helps people live. He's a upstanding member of the community, and it would seem so far out of character. You typically would have somebody come in and explain to the jury, although, you know, sometimes now the judges are keeping that out because there's not as much science behind it as people think. But the cycle of domestic violence and you know, whether there was control issues, anger, you know, you never have to prove motive, but every jury wants to know what the motive is. I mean, we're going to talk about Cronenberger later, and people still want to know what that motive is, right? People want to know what the motive is, and that domestic violence can be that link.
Definitely. You know, one of the things I think still so troubling for a lot of people, Detective, I know we've talked about this, how the perpetrator got into the home. If we can take away any lesson from this, if there's anything we can all learn and help ourselves, our family, our loved ones stay safer, thinking about a crime like this, what would you say, Detective, are some safety measures we can all take for our home personal security?
Yeah, always be aware of your surroundings and don't take anything for granted. You know, the concept of my neighborhood's safe, that's over. You know, you have to be prepared for absolutely anything. And you have to make sure, just the simple things, your doors are locked, get deadbolts on your doors, make sure your windows are locked, alarm systems, anything you can do to prevent something like this and just keep yourself safe. A lot of it is common sense, but sometimes you have to go even further than that to make sure you're safe. And, you know, not only taking the same route home, you know, from where you're going, take a different route home. Don't stick to a pattern of your life. Every once in a while, change it up. So in the event, you know, someone has a background like this, they don't get locked into one particular part of your life.
That's great advice, Detective. Thank you. Let's listen to Rob Misley talking about the children.
Don't know how to tell a 4-year-old that they're never going to see their mom and your daddy again. And it's, how do you? And how does the 4-year-old understand, right? They have to grow as a person and develop that understanding of what death is, and you never truly understand it. But right now, it's just like, mommy and daddy, you're in heaven? Well,
oh my gosh, what a task to explain to those children what occurred. Noah, your thoughts on the 4-year-old? You know, we know there's a baby, you know, at 1 who hopefully will not have any memories of this at all, but the 4-year-old might. What do you think?
Well, one, let's hope that obviously the family does what they need to do to take care of these children, and most importantly, get them the professional help that they need. You know, whenever anyone asks me what to do, I'm like, go talk to the professional. And the professional, the psychiatrists or psychologists or counselors, they're the people who will come up with the best game plan for how to deal with a 4-year-old and what that 4-year-old may or may not remember.
Yeah. You know, let's hope that they're getting all the help they need. You know, we know that they're loved, deeply loved, wonderful family that's taking care of those kids. And from what we've heard, this couple was deeply loved and admired. And this is just so heartbreaking. Our thoughts and our prayers go out to their family, their friends. We're going to keep their memories alive here on Opening Statements, as we always like to remember the victims.